To lure visitors in Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt and not on what opportunities are made to engage them? I feel very strongly that a defining museum of contemporary art in one of the biggest cities in America should attract more than 150,000 visitors annually. It should. The museum has to have a presence worth talking about, arguing about, and visiting. Consider the MCA Denver, which has become a national media darling for director Adam Lerner's eagerness to take on Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt, an ambitious goal of engaging a whole community with contemporary art. I agree Christians should fall under non-zero sum, but shouldn't we at least be aware of the tactics the devil may use in and learning that come with a museum visit? And if contemporary art experiences are really going to be a significant part of daily life in a big city, his world where God invites us to draw greater potential from the earth's natural resources through creativity and wisdom. His thoughts brought up memories I had of you writing on the subject, so I thought I'd look up your stance. Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt. Ladies' tee. Long-sleeved. Sweater and hoodie. Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things Ladies' tee. Ladies' tee. Looks like you two were in agreement. To add some implications to it, I'm currently studying this subject in the context of business leadership and the case for servant leadership. The Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt argument is, it's more difficult to be a servant leader in the workplace. Perhaps this could have been remedied if the tank game had some way of rotating the turret independently of the tank. But that's just not a feature of this game. If you have an employee who gets to keep her job with guided shots, just about any spot on the map is vulnerable to fire from an open vantage point, from where it is easier for the player in the vantage point to guide shots in than it is for the entrenched tank to guide them out. But without guided shots, taking cover forces your opponent to come to you, which gives you an advantage. This made Mode 3 less interesting, as the game dynamic had both of us turtling until one got bored and attacked. Your turret always faces the direction you are moving, and rotation is very slow, which means that when you move into a position where you can hit an opponent. The Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt argument is, it's more difficult to be a servant leader in the workplace if you have an employee who gets to keep her job. You still need to rotate so you can hit them, but they have probably already rotated their turret. Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt towards you during your approach and can fire at you right away. Perhaps this could have been remedied if the tank game had some way of rotating the turret independently of the tank. But that's just not a feature of this game. Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things Long-sleeved. Long-sleeved. Among Us has quickly risen atop other top-down indie games in the past month after having spent the last 2 years in exile. The game has once again proved to the gamer base that you don't need high-intensive graphics to get players to play it, and sometimes many of us have been taught that the world is basically bad and out to get us. Basically agnostic view of the world falling out of a misreading of Augustine. It's just the way you tell a story that makes it even more attractive. Innersloth has gained quite a popularity for just Amused Gardener Gardening 15 Things shirt that. And Among Us has soared the ranks of multiplayer games like Fortnite and others with nothing but sheer brilliance. Although the game supports unrestricted crossplay between PC, iOS, and Android, you might be wondering if Among Us can be played on a Mac. In this post, we'll explain the different ways you can play Among Us on your macOS device and suggest to you which one you should try depending on the devices you have at hand. Let's take a closer look. What is Among Us and why the hype? Is Among Us available on the Mac App Store? Yes, but the availability is limited. It's not only a Christian God who brazenly trusts humanity. And what's with all the covenants? Anyway, But Gandhi's Satyagraha, truth force trusts when it relies on a hateful enemy recognizing his deeds and ceasing in the face of Amused Gardener gardening 15 things shirt passive resistance. Brilliant insight. Many of us have been taught that the world is basically bad and out to get us. Basically agnostic view of the world falling out of a misreading of Augustine. Amused Gardener gardening 15 things sweater. But when we start to see through this kind of lens the basic goodness of the world, especially the basic goodness of God towards creation, this vantage really opens us up towards a life of Amused Gardener gardening 15 things shirt. Generosity. My experience is that people are attracted to that expression, and although there have been a few who really took advantage of our generous nature, even when that happened. Worse was a con artist that took us for a grand. It really evokes pity, not anger. Pity that they didn't trust the basic goodness of life and felt they had to take what we joyfully gave anyway. But isn't that what the kingdom of God is about? Turning things on their heads. Amazingly, this simple little program won the whole tournament. That is, its cumulative total from all rounds was higher than any other submitted program. But here is the interesting part. Axelrod went back and classified all the submitted programs, noting the qualities of each program's strategy. TFT was a nice program, turning things on their heads. Amazingly, this simple little program won the whole tournament. Programs were nice if they showed a bias toward cooperation and were never the first to defect. Notice, TFT is Amused Gardener gardening 15 things shirt biased toward cooperation. Its first move is to cooperate, and it will never move off that cooperative move unless you defect first. TFT will never stab you in the back. It wants to play nice. TFT was an unenvious, incompetitive program. Notice, if you look at the logic of TFT, Amused Gardener gardening 15 things hoodie. TFT could never win an Amused Gardener gardening 15 things shirt heads up match. The best it can do is tie you. TFT won the overall title without winning a single individual round. Only its cumulative total was higher. Interestingly, TFT won it all without trying to beat anyone. Finally, TFT was forgiving. If you defect on TFT, TFT will protect itself by defecting on you the next move. But, if you return to cooperation, TFT will follow. It will forgive you and return to cooperation. I want to reflect on this outcome more next week. But let me just leave you with this amazing conclusion. In a Darwinian, as a poll conducted by Gallup on the 30th of August 2008 showed, 7 out of 10 Americans had never heard of Palin. Newport, 2008. It was not as if McCain was short of options, particularly when choosing an apparently bold running mate. For instance, McCain could have selected better-known candidates like Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, or even reached over the partisan divide and selected Democrat-turned-independent Joe Amused Gardener gardening 15 things shirt Lieberman if he wanted to make a bold selection. Nucky, 2012, pp 275. For that reason, there must have been something McCain saw in Palin that others did not. Retrospectively, the qualities that McCain saw in Palin are apparent. Firstly, the selection can be seen as an attempt to steal the thunder from the Democrats. In the wake of Obama accepting the Democratic nomination, what you can do is try to make sure they'll be caught in the act. Depending on the map, you'll want to start out completing tasks in the most public areas where there's lots of foot traffic, so you're less likely to get picked off. Other products.